feeling insecure about being accepted by a group.
I'm insecure that I may be a bit aloof and maybe a bit selfish.
Our insecurities and limiting beliefs are things we all hate to deal with. And as much as they are impactful on our personal lives, they are as pervasive in today's society too. Now, as we go through life, we observe that some people deal with them really well, while others succumb to them. What differentiates those people? Well, to answer that question, we need to acknowledge the first truth that actually, we all have to deal with them. No one is safe from their own intrusive thoughts. So that's great to know, yeah. But that's only one part of it, right? The other piece of the puzzle is that we all have the equipment to fight and take on these insecurities too. And to me, that's something worth trying to figure out how to do. So in this video, we'll explore how literally swinging at our insecurities head on can give us back our power and help us take control of how we relate to them. Now, we are currently in the beautiful Palm Springs during the amazing Indian Wells tennis tournament. And in the spirit of our love and passion for the sport, this is what we have for our exercise today. Firstly, we're going to write down our insecurities on a few tennis balls. 2, smack the hell out of these tennis balls in a hitting session together. And 3, see what the tennis balls look like after a session and also see how we feel about the whole exercise. So through these symbolic gestures, we get an insight into how we can face our limiting beliefs. But in this video, we go further. We find amazing perspectives that can help us find a better relationship with ourselves too. So all right, that's enough said. Let's get to it. All right, so now I'm going to be writing down my insecurities on this tennis ball. And the first one I have to write down is anxious, because I find sometimes I'm a little bit hard on myself, that I get worked up about things, or I'm too much worrying about the future. Then the next one is just not good enough. So I'm just going to write NGE. You know, when those get kind of programmed when you're very young, it can be very hard to unprogram them because they start feeling very familiar to you. So then another one is antisocial. I'm not actually antisocial, but I do withdraw quite often if I get a little bit worked up. Even if I get anxious, that's definitely a trigger for me. So you can see how a lot of these kind of insecurities, you know, feed into each other. This one I like. Inconsistent. I call myself inconsistent in so many areas of my life. I think a big thing I struggle with is I'm really good at showing up, or, you know, doing a good job for a certain period of time, you know, that be it in a relationship or with my friends or, you know, in my soccer team. Coward. This is the next one. I do believe I can be a coward sometimes, and I tend to get scared when the pressure's on. But more importantly, I tell myself that I am a coward when I feel those things, instead of try to address them head on. Or second last one, I would say, is emotionally stunted. When things kind of start to not go so well, or, you know, I kind of run into roadblocks, I think that's when these kind of feelings creep in, that I'm not good enough, that I failed again, I cowered away, and that must mean that I'm emotionally stunted. So that's kind of how the flow of insecurities kind of build up, you know. So, and then the last one, I think, to kind of just summarize everything, you know, if you kind of think, you put all those insecurities all together, right? You could say someone is definitely broken. You know, that I'm emotionally broken, maybe physically broken, mentally broken. I don't know. Something must be broken if I'm feeling all these things, and if I'm, you know, if I'm having so much trouble dealing with all this stuff that's affecting my security. So, all right, and this is my ball of insecurities. The black on the green also kind of symbolizes, you know, like some damage, right? Some dark damage in there. So it's cool. I think it's a great analogy to how things are actually going on in our mind. All right, so that's it for me. Next, we have my other friends who are going to be participating in this exercise. Let's see what they've written on their tennis balls. Antoine's one of my other friends who's putting his stuff on the ball. So what have you got on the ball, Antoine?
So on my ball, I put feeling insecure about being accepted by a group. Insecure also about not being smart enough in certain situations, and about my work skills, actually. So those are 3 things I want to knock out of the court today.
Oh, hell yeah. We love to see that. Awesome. All right. And then we got my other friend, Deniz.
What I got on here is that I'm insecure that I may be a bit aloof and maybe a bit selfish. And that maybe I'm emotional, not good enough. I think not good enough is an overarching big theme.
I like that.
Imposter syndrome at work. And I think maybe, in general. Those are my insecurities that
Love it.
I'm going to be knocking the
We're
shit
gonna be
out of.
we're gonna be
Can I say
smacking
that?
these out. Hell yeah. Alrighty guys, we're gonna get to it now. Let's go. Alright, so with all our tennis balls ready to go, it's time to hit. And the rules of our session are simple. No playing around, no real points, let's just hit, have fun, and smack some tennis balls. Now as I put in the highlights of our session, here's what I learned from taking my insecurities head on. You know, very quickly into this session, I realized that just like with our insecurities, the tennis ball will always be sent right back to you. Sometimes it can feel like an endless barrage that you can't escape. Ball after ball sailing over the net, demanding your attention every second. It's easy to feel overwhelmed or wonder if you're doing something wrong because these thoughts come in at you too. But in tennis, you never question why the ball's coming back. You know it's simply part of the game. You anticipate it, and you keep swinging. And that's the mindset we need with our own insecurities. Understanding that they're not a punishment or a personal failing, but a natural process. In tennis, when your opponent returns the ball, it doesn't mean you're losing, right? It means you're still in play. As long as that ball is coming your way, you have an opportunity to hit it back. An opportunity to keep going and potentially turn the point around. In the same way, our insecurities are simply thoughts that arise and re-arise, but they don't define us. Feeling these insecurities don't mean we failed. They mean we're alive, still on the court, with a chance to stand our ground and emerge victorious. It's so vital to remember this, that the constant return of intrusive thoughts or self-doubts isn't an indication of your personal weakness or proof that something's wrong with you. It's part of what makes you human. Just like that tennis ball's trajectory is part of what makes tennis the game it is. The real turning point comes from recognizing that these thoughts aren't insurmountable threats. Actually, they are opportunities to exercise mental resilience, moments to practice pushing back, returning that serve, and staying engaged in the rally of life. So really, the point isn't over until you decide it is. As long as you keep your racket up and keep swinging, you're still in the game. And as long as you keep returning each limiting belief, meeting it head on and sending it right back, you're proving that you're stronger than you think. The point truly only ends when the ball stops coming, and if you get to that point, you actually may become the one who finally won the game. You know, the next thing that I noticed as we continued playing and just having fun was the idea that swinging through the ball is everything in the game. It's what gives your stroke power, precision, and that satisfying spin. And that's when I made that connection. The moment you decide to ease up or hold back, you lose the momentum that keeps that ball on target. Over time, you learn there's no place for fear if you want your shots to be consistent and effective. You can't dwell on whether you'll miss or fail. Your mind isn't equipped to both panic and commit fully at the same time. So you need to teach yourself to take the leap anyways, again and again, until you start getting comfortable with that rush of uncertainty. But you'll see, the payoff is undeniable. Each strong, confident swing reminds you of just how capable you really are. And this applies to confronting your insecurities absolutely. You can't just tiptoe around the dark corners of your own mind and hope they'll disappear. You have to face them boldly, even if it means risking the sting of truth when you discover something painful. Insecurity knocks on your door, and you have to invite it in. You examine it, feel it, let it occupy its space, and in doing so, see it for what it truly is. Just a thought, and not an unalterable fact. This acceptance doesn't weaken you though. It's actually the first step towards transforming your old doubts into a deeper understanding of yourself. Now of course, mistakes will happen both on and off the court. You'll shank a few shots, sail a forehand long, or you'll trip over your own judgments. But at least you swung through wholeheartedly instead of retreating into the fear. And that's the amazing thing about the sport. Every point in tennis is a fresh start, and every day in life grants you another chance to face those nagging voices in your head. So take the swing, risk the miss, and trust that pushing through the fear is the only way to find your rhythm, whether on the tennis court or in the game of life. So yes, you have to take on your own thoughts head on. You have to swing through. You know, it's funny, as you get better at tennis, you actually realize that swinging hard is not everything there is to the sport. Actually, placing the ball is a lot more important. And it's funny, in this exercise, we said we were going to swing hard, but this made me realize how placement matters so much more than power a lot of the time. And sometimes it's not about the hardest hit, it's about the smartest shot. On the tennis court, a well-placed ball can do way more damage to your opponent than brute force ever will. You don't always need the blistering serve or the heavy forehand. You just need the perfect angle to open up the court, the soft drop shot to put your opponent off balance, or the clever lob over your rival's head to send them back home. As you get better in the sport, you realize it's the quiet precision of your stroke that can create winning opportunities. And in the same way, when it comes to battling insecurities, sheer willpower isn't the only path to victory. Yes, there are times for a fierce, full-throttle mindset, but it's equally important to be strategic, even in your own mind. Sometimes it's better to place each thought carefully so that you can spot the weak points in your own doubts. Ask yourself, what if I tried a different angle? What if I questioned why this insecurity feels so powerful? And what if I tried to catch it off guard with a new perspective or fresh approach? By focusing on placement over power, you might open a door to self-awareness that allows you to deconstruct your fears without draining all your emotional energy. Embracing this nuanced tactic can be the difference between a rushed, frustrating attempt to overpower your insecurities and a skillful placement that ultimately sends them reeling, letting you take control of the match that's going on in your mind. As I reflect on this day and look back at all the tennis matches I've seen, I can't stop thinking of this idea of keep hitting, just keep hitting. You know, our insecurities run deep. They're carved into our sense of self in a way that isn't easily undone. Much like the writing on a tennis ball, a single solid swing isn't going to erase them. You have to keep returning the ball 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, sometimes more, before you even get a chance to claim the point. This repetitive process is what ultimately wears down the ink on the ball and weakens that grip of those old beliefs that we have in our minds. It's the same with personal growth. You can't dismantle a lifelong insecurity in one bold move. Instead, each time you choose to stand up to a nagging doubt or push back against it, you're building up a new muscle, one that grows stronger with every repetition. And only over time does this practice start to feel like second nature. You become more adept at recognizing those destructive voices and more confident in knocking them out of your mental court. So when you keep hitting, you're not just rejecting negative ideas, you're actively training your mind to replace these self-defeating patterns with a belief in your own resilience. In tennis, it really is who made the last shot who wins a point. And so in life, if you give the last blow, then you put yourself in the best position possible. It's this repeated, intentional effort that makes all the difference, until one day you look back and realize that what once felt impossible now comes naturally, and that the ink from your old insecurities has all but faded away into something you no longer recognize.
Yeah, so the way I felt is I felt actually really detached from them. And when I was playing tennis, I was so much in the present moment that they actually didn't really enter my focus, my mind. And I realized that these insecurities really stem from trauma that's in our past, and they're beliefs that are built on distorted illusions. And when you're playing tennis, when you're in the middle of a point, when you're trying to win that point, there's no room for the past. You're only in the zone. You're only trying to get the job done. And so it really kind of put in perspective how these insecurities fit in my life. So yeah, I would say I felt very free and very dissociated from the insecurities. Having a new perspective on who I am and how I can deal with those insecurities and how they're not actually tied to my identity. They're just illusion that can distort my present moments, but I get to choose what the present moment is. If I'm playing tennis, that won't be part of the present moment. Yeah. And so it was very insightful.
It was interesting. I felt the urge to find my ball and hit it as hard as I can. And it made me realize that I had some anger towards these insecurities that I was holding because of how they affect me in my life, I guess. So it kind of felt symbolic as I was trying to get rid of these insecurities by like trying to find and hit my ball so that like they don't hold me back. Yeah. Reflecting back on it, I thought that it felt good, but also vulnerable to identify my insecurities like that and to write them down. But after I hit the balls, I felt a bit lighter and like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders almost. It felt good to, I think, write all of them down on a physical object. And it felt like hitting them, it took away some of their power. And I felt like they were holding me back less after the exercise. Like, even though the ball kept coming back, like the writings on it started to fade. And, you know, the insecurities are still there. But I think I was reminded of the fact that I am in control of them and they don't hold as much power as I thought, or they gonna hold as much power as I give them. Yeah, exactly. And in that moment, you're in control of that. Yeah, you're in control of deciding what to do once that ball comes in your way. So I think it was a good exercise in realizing that.
So yeah, it was great to hear what both Antoine and Deniz thought about the whole exercise and how they feel. I definitely think it really helped us, come to a certain level of understanding with ourselves too. Alright, so as we finish the exercise and close this video, looking at the ball now really reminds me of, what looks like battle scars. You can't see any of the insecurities written on the ball anymore, but you can still see the ink. If you think of what a battle scar is, they do fade with time, but they rarely vanish completely. Look at this tennis ball. The words are gone, yet the ink has seeped in, leaving faint outlines if you examine it closely. That's how our deepest insecurities work too. Over time, their power might lessen, but the impressions they leave can become a lasting part of us. But this is far from being a sign of weakness. These traces are actually part of our story, reminders of our challenges, our growth, and our resilience. We don't need to deny them or wish them away. We need to learn to integrate them into who we are. When we embrace our insecurities as part of our authentic selves, we become more open, honest, and capable of real connection. Ultimately, it's our willingness to own these battle scars, to accept that they shape us, but they do not define us, and that will allow us to move forward with genuine strength and clarity. And that note on clarity is really a great way to summarize how I feel after this whole exercise. Not only did I have such a fun time hitting with my friends, but we all realized that we all are insecure about something, personal to us. And the other thing is, looking at each other's insecurities. I don't agree with their insecurities, and they probably don't agree with mine. And that really kind of shows how a lot of these things are just products of our own thinking. And I hope that gives us even more ammunition and even more strength to address these day after day after day. So now as I go forward in life after doing this exercise, I have a newfound appreciation for the things that hurt me, or the ways that I hurt myself. Because not only do I know that I can take them on, even though it may take some intelligent, placement, continuous hitting back, and a lifelong process, I know that feeling these things does not mean that I'm a bad person and that I don't need to give in to them. At the end of the day, I'll look back at myself, all the beautiful battle scars that lay in my mind, and just be happy and content that that's who I am and that's how I want to go about my life. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video and hope to see you again for more reflections, life lessons, and just personal philosophies that help shape us into better people every day.